Victor Gyökeres. What is the latest in what's becoming a little bit of an unsavoury episode now?
Yeah, it certainly doesn't look good with regards to Victor Gyökeres at the moment and what's going on. As far as Arsenal are concerned, they're very much relaxed about the current situation and their pursuit of the striker. There's been talks ongoing for some time, but as of yet not got to a complete, total agreement between Arsenal and Sporting Lisbon. And as we know from the way that Victor Gyökeres has decided to handle this week, shall we say, he's facing some fines and possible disciplinary action from Sporting. The president has actually been speaking as well, Federico Varandas, and he's basically said, look, if the suitors don't want to pay what Victor's fair market value is, we'll be very comfortable with that for the next 3 years, which is, of course, what's remaining on his current Sporting contract. As far as Arsenal are concerned, the situation between Victor Gyökeres, the president and the club, has nothing to do with them. They're still operating to try and get a deal done. We understand that Sporting want £60.4 million with add-ons of 8.6 million. And we know that Victor Gyökeres has said to everyone, I'm focused on Arsenal. I want Arsenal. Just before we came on air, there was a tweet from the Athletic's David Ornstein. He says Arsenal are in the process of completing a move for Victor Gyökeres after taking final steps in negotiations with Sporting Lisbon. Arsenal made a formal advance on a deal over the weekend in a bid to secure the 27-year-old. His scoring record is absolutely phenomenal. It says as well that there's a 5-year contract on the table. So we're going to do our research and due diligence to check what the latest is there. But that was literally as we were coming on air. I guess the problem here is the player and what the Sporting president wants. And, of course, there was a lot of talk about this gentleman's agreement where he thought he could leave for one price. The president has said, hang on, no, you're not going for that cheap. It's got to be this price. We know that he signed a contract which had a €100 million release clause in, and Sporting are prepared to say, well, we know we're not going to get that, but we still want a fair whack for you. Have you ever been in this situation where you've got a release clause or a gentleman's agreement with an owner?
I wouldn't say a release clause, but definitely a gentleman's agreement with an owner, and that was when I was at Aston Villa with Randy Lerner. And he was a fantastic chairman, always over at the training ground, always at the games, and we got on really well. And I remember I got to the end of one of the seasons, and I always said that my ambition was to get the club into Europe. I think 4 times in a row we finished 6th outside of the European places at the time, getting to Champions League. So he, at the end of one of the seasons, I was ready to leave basically. Randy come on the phone, literally, I wouldn't say begging, but was saying to me if we could reach any agreement that I stayed that season, then he would allow me to leave and go to a club of my choice. We flew in from America, we sat down, we talked, and I was more than happy at Aston Villa. I was enjoying my time there. I loved my time there. Obviously, I'm an ambitious person. Knew that I wanted to go and play, like say, Champions League football, and wanted to win trophies, wanted to win titles. So, I stayed for that season, and I put everything into that season. It wasn't that I wasn't going to play because going out on the pitch, playing well, gives you more opportunities. So I made sure that I played that season. Literally at the end of the season, Randy rang me again and was literally like, I'm going to allow you to leave. So there was no release clause in there. As you see nowadays, there's so many release clauses in people's contracts. But that gentleman's agreement was agreed in the end.
And honoured.
And honoured, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you say it's agreed and honoured. If you ask Victor Gyökeres, he will probably say that it hasn't been honoured. But he's decided to take the situation into his own hands and decided, I'm not going to turn up to training, effectively going on strike. Have you ever, I'm not saying that you have, I don't think you have, but have you ever seen a situation when you've been at a club where it's got so bad between a player and a club that they've just said, I'm not going to come and turn up anymore?
I've never seen anyone that's done that or been in that. And I think that, it's a tough situation. Obviously, if there's been a gentleman's agreement that's been in place for him, then if that's not going to be honoured, then, basically you're going to be stuck there because you've got a contract to fulfil. You've got 3 years left. it's going to be down to the sporting president. It's going to be down to the club to make that arrangement, that agreement. And if it's not going to be done, then I don't know whether it's going to be right that he goes on strike. Maybe he's going to do that to push for a deal. But if Sporting do stand firm, then you've either got a player that's not going to be happy, you've got a club that's then like, it's fine, the player's going to be here. Then the manager's then going to have to come into it, and he's going to have to make his decision as well. So it's a tough situation all round, I think.
Yeah, I think the direction of travel looks like it is going to be Victor Gyökeres making his way from Sporting to Arsenal. A deal that looks closer is Noni Madueke from Chelsea to Arsenal. He's in London now, finalising that move. He's agreed personal terms on a 5-year deal in principle. He'll have a medical, all being well. A formal announcement is expected soon. A reminder of the fee: Arsenal will pay an initial £48.5 million plus £3.5 million in performance-related add-ons. But if you were to read social media, which we spoke about before, you don't usually do that, Ashley, but there's been a little bit of pushback from Arsenal fans, supposed Arsenal fans, about this deal, about them not wanting Noni Madueke at Arsenal. How do you think Noni Madueke will be feeling about this? Will he have read it, or will he have detached himself from all sort of social media?
I think that, yeah, especially nowadays, social media is handy. It's always there to be able to be read and whatnot. And I think that, obviously they're out of the Club World Cup, so he's concentrating on that. That's where I think that his focus is going to be on. If he does come across social media, and it's not all Arsenal fans. I think it's a small minority that have come up with the saying that they don't want him at the club. And I think that can affect a player. If he's seeing it, like I say, if he's reading it, then when he's seeing just that small minority, maybe he's thinking, oh, it's right, that I'm not bothered about that. But then on the other hand, he could be reading it and thinking, well, I don't want to go to a club where fans are not going to welcome me and I'm going to be accepted. So, I think it's difficult. It's one of them where, you've got to have the right mentality to deal with, things that go on social media. And, like we spoke, that, social media, you can get a backlash from it non-stop. It can work in your favour. But I think the best thing to do is, just not to look at the negativity that comes with it. Just stay positive. And, the best thing for Noni to do is go and perform on the pitch, and that's all he can do. Yeah,
easier said than done. But if he was to perform on the pitch, do you think he could be a vital ingredient to help Arsenal go from being thereabouts to actually being there next season?
I think he can help him massively. I think he would have looked at his Chelsea career and maybe thought that he could have done better. But he's done as well as he can do. Is there more to come from him? Yeah, I do think there is more to come. And when you go to a team of Arsenal that have finished second the last couple of seasons, they want to push further on and they want to win titles. So he's going to have that ambition, I'm sure, to want to win trophies. And it's competition for places. You're not going to go to a place and be like, right, I'm going to start. You look at the likes of Bukayo Saka that's there, Martinelli's there, Trossard's there. There's even Gyökeres that's coming through now as well. As a player, if you've got that hunger and that desire to be able to have competition in a team, in a squad, and you'll be saying, I want to be playing week in, week out. So it's going to be healthy competition if he does make that move.
OK, let's go.
The Gunners have enjoyed a promising start to the summer transfer window, welcoming 3 new faces to the Emirates Stadium. Andrea Berta opened his account by signing Kepa Arrizabalaga, who cost just $5 million due to a release clause in his contract at Stamford Bridge. For then, the Italian wrapped up a deal for Martin Zubimendi before prizing Christian Norgod from Brentford. Berta has shown no sign of slowing down, with Noni Madueke set to follow the trio to London Coney. The Arsenal sporting director has certainly beefed up Mikel Arteta's squad this summer, bringing in lots of cover for key positions. But the Gunners are still yet to sign a new striker. Victor Gyökeres continues to be heavily linked with a move, while interest in Benjamin Sesko appears to have cooled. The North Londoners have already returned to training, and with their first friendly in just under 2 weeks, Berta will be under pressure to secure a signature. Gyökeres provides an update on his future. Ironically, on the day that Victor Gyökeres was due to report for pre-season with Sporting, he spoke to France Football. The Swede, whose contract at the Jose Alvalade Stadium expires in June 2028, said it's football, you never know. I'm not thinking about it, we'll see what happens. If something is going to happen, it will happen. The most important thing for me is to play for a club that really wants me. On the Premier League, Gyökeres said it's one of the biggest leagues in Europe. I spent several years there without being able to play a single match. So, of course, it's something I would like to do. It would be a great revenge. In the last week, Arsenal have intensified their pursuit of Sporting Lisbon striker Victor Gyökeres. The Swedish striker has agreed on personal terms with the Gunners as per Fabrizio Romano, but the clubs are yet to see eye to eye on a transfer fee. Gyökeres is assisting their Gunners in their pursuit of him by refusing to return to the Portuguese outfit's pre-season training. Arsenal will now hope to agree on a transfer before the club travels to Singapore for its own pre-season plans at the end.